Hello and a very warm welcome to all. I welcome you all on today's webinar on the topic of working with difficult team members. So, let me introduce to our speaker. So, Mr. Murthy is an educator, a author, speaker, entrepreneur, and a coach. Over 50,000 people have benefited from his coaching, training, and mentoring services. He closely works with the youth, teaching, and student community and inspires coaches them to unleash their true potential. He believes in the potential of an individual irrespective of their background if guided well, can create a humongous positive impact on the society. Prior to venturing into entrepreneurship, he was involved in learning and development and other human resources activities like talent acquisition, HR operations, employee engagement, and many more. He was also awarded a star president during 2009-10 for the performance of various social activities. So, through Rotary Internationals, he was honored with the Rex Karmveer Global Fellowship and Karmveer Chakra Award, I Congo, instituted with the UN during November 2016 for his contribution to the community and many more. So, how are you, Mr. Moti?
Rahul Singh, good morning, and I'm fine. Thank you for the introduction, and nice to meet you here.
Okay, so let's get started and going on further.
Yeah.
Further to the question. So, negative environment is considered to be a crucial aspect for the working efficiency. So, negative people at work can lead to negative environment also. So, how do you identify these negative employees and how someone can deal with them?
Start with the world loves positive people around, right? You and me love to have positive people around, don't we? So everybody wants to, have positive people around, not negative people, or not negative working environment, or negative atmosphere, ambience, even at home or outside, right? Now, how do you identify those negative people? Well, let's also figure out now why people become negative. There are various reasons people become negative at workplace. The workplace may not provide a positive working environment for them. They feel that they are not valued, they are not appreciated, and they feel that the communication within the organization is not proper. Maybe the leadership is poor. There are so many reasons, so we can talk further as well. So how do you identify? Well, let's get back to the main question. So how do you identify these people in a workplace? Now, we identify them through observing. The very observation that reveals that whether the person is positive or negative. The way they talk, the way they communicate, their body language, and of course their attitude towards the work or projects. So in and out every day we keep observing them, or probably they get into a lot of gossiping, sometimes politics as well. They don't like the boss, they don't respect the boss. So all these are observations that we see in and out, and of course eventually it leads to and of course it's like a pandemic. If you have one negative person and they keep talking like negative every day, and then that spreads, right? And eventually that affects the business, affects the working culture, working environment as well. That's not good to the organization. So we keep observing them, and of course the feedback that we get from others also, and that's one of the main reasons where we need to work with them. Now, how do you deal with them? Well, first and foremost, we need to figure out the very reason for their negative behavior. There are two aspects here. One is whether the company provides the positive and good working environment. Assuming that, say, okay, company is good and you have a good working environment, yet you find these negative team members within the team. There could be many reasons again, all right? It's not that just because the company is not providing the good working environment, then you have those people. So even best of the best companies also have seen people becoming negative at workplaces. Now, after having identified them, now how do you deal with them? Obviously, number one, figure out the reason why that person is negative. Because if you have 10 negative people in a company or in a particular department, a big department, for example, it's not the same reason for all 10 of them. There could be different reasons, right? So the first and foremost to find solution is to figure out the reason why somebody has become negative. What is the reason? Is it internal reason or is it external reason? Sometimes external reasons, like, people take, the challenges of workplace to home and they bring vice versa, so that could be one of the reasons. And then within the organization, what could be the reason? Are they not happy with their bosses? Are they not happy with the pay? Are they not happy with the work culture, work environment? Are they not happy with their progression, or they don't feel that they're valued or appreciated or recognized for their work? Maybe sometimes, to do with the pay as well, and they start comparing with someone else. So all these things do happen in an organization. So once you figure out the reason, and then of course to have an open communication, with them, one-on-one discussion to find out. Many a times we can counsel them, mentor them, coach them, and correct that behavior as well. So it's not that, it's not irreparable. It is repairable. Now, if it goes beyond one's ability to do that, then probably you involve others like a mediator, or you get into, if the company has, of course, you can have HR, and apart from your seniors, then you bring HR into a place, and then external mentors or coaches also come into place. So by doing this, I'm sure that a lot of these, negative people can be turned into a positive people, and eventually that helps the organization. Yeah.
Thank you for your answer. It is a true answer, actually. So yes. You have heard. My next question to you is: if you already worked with someone that you are now managing, or you have become a so-called boss of them, so it can lead to a lot of challenges. So can you put some light on those challenges and how someone can deal with it?
Sure, definitely. And this is a good question, to say so. It happens, and I have seen this too. Now, as you know, familiarity breeds contempt. So you and me are working together at some point as colleagues, and we are the best friends. And suddenly, one of us gets promoted, and I become the boss, and I got to manage you as an employee, right? So obviously, you start distancing from me, maybe for a number of reasons, and then you feel that, I cannot. I mean, it's a lot of, sometimes it's assumptions also, it may not be the true case. Sometimes you assume that, now he's a boss, then I cannot be friendly with him, and then probably sometimes I've seen people getting into a different zone where they get distance from the person, and then they start developing some kind of a complex, sometimes inferiority complex, and sometimes jealous. So they, start kind of a different attitude, show towards work, a different attitude, maybe, out of their assumptions sometimes. May not be true all the, times that your boss behaves like that, but then you assume a lot. So obviously that leads into a lot of challenges, because there is a distance between the two. Communication may not happen like earlier. Suddenly you see the change in your boss, and obviously when you wear a different hat, you can't be the same person, right? So how do you deal with that? Now, number one is that, if you are the person who is being promoted, and then you got to manage your, ex-colleague, now you're managing, don't be intimidated, and probably you need to have an open mind and have an open discussion with him that, okay, you are now in a different position where the position demands certain things, where he understands that clearly, that, okay, so this is how it is. So that openness and that open communication, and kind of giving him that, feel of secure, atmosphere, probably makes him behave better. And then you be an open-minded person, and, have an open communication, but be very clear in your communication. You can't be the same person, you can't have, nepotism or a good friend of him earlier. Can't do favoritism, and you can't be biased. To be very professional, that's very, very clear. You need to be very professional to deal with him and have an open communication. So that solves a lot of problems where he feels that he is taken care of, he is valued, appreciated, and then you have an open communication. But you can't be the same person as you were earlier at workplace if you have to manage somebody earlier. Obviously, there will be some changes which you need to communicate well so that he understands well, so that you have cordial relationship that continues for the betterment of the company, work, and your department.
Correct, sir. Correct. Very true, sir.
Yeah.
So in the same way, let's say you in your team member there is a member who is more knowledgeable than you, or have more grasp on skill sets than you. So how do you manage someone who is more intelligent than you?
Okay, somebody who is more intelligent than me.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, it's not an easy one though. It's really tough one, at times to work with the smarter people. But at the same time, it's very good. If you develop leadership skills, you will always want to work with smarter people. It is always good to have smarter people under you, and that's how a leader is, right? It's not that a leader should know everything. It's not that always leaders should know everything, but leaders should know how to manage, leaders should know how to lead. As a leader, you set an example, but it's not that you should know each and every aspect of that particular, business domain. That is how, and that is why you have lots of smart people there to handle different domains and different, aspects of businesses. You, or as a leader, you got to manage them well, you got to lead them well. But doesn't mean that you should, right? Having said that, yes, it's again not an easy thing, different hat, because sometimes leader gets into insecurity here because he starts feeling that inferior and perhaps feel that, okay, I don't know much than what my colleague knows. But of course, you should continue to educate and develop yourself in order to lead those smart people. And of course, you need to be very open-minded, professional, communicative. The communication plays a significant role here, where when you work with smarter people, if you put yourself into a shell where, okay, so those are smart people, I can't work with them, then they may not be able to perform better either. If you have to manage smarter people, and you need to be smart, but doesn't mean that you need to know everything that they do, but you should know how to manage them well. And that is where I strongly feel that the people skills come into place there. You should be an excellent people's person there.
Very true, sir. You have talked about a leader and a manager. To you, sir, is how to deal with your team if they are openly against you.
It's not easy, if you ask me. For any leader, for that matter, if the team or team members are against you, it's a terrifying experience. It's definitely not a comfortable situation for any leader to manage a team where they are openly against you. But then, as a leader, you got to manage them. You got to definitely strike a cordial relationship there. Otherwise, that project doesn't move up. Now, how? The first and foremost is to figure out the reason. What could be the reason? Why are they not happy? Are they not happy with me or my leadership style, or my communication is not great? Am I missing anything? Are they not happy with the pay? Are they not happy with the atmosphere? Are they not happy with the project or a project deadline? So need to figure out, number one, to figure out reasons why they are not happy. Figure out why. When you get why, when you get the reason, then you can always try and the reason. You can't assume here either. If somebody is, if a team member is against me, I can assume something and take some action against that person unless I know the reason. Sometimes the key aspect here is there is a saying, begin before you begin. So that when you get into a meeting, you know that your team members come with preparation and come with certain probably certain arguments. Now, if you begin before you begin, what I also say that is PPE. plan, prepare, execute. Now you need to execute certain things. That is, say, for example, the ultimate meeting where you have a dialogue with him. So for that, you plan and prepare and then execute. Now, it's not that every time when you do that, the other, you could stop the your team members from, talking further or, arguing or whatever that they have that throw at you. They still do that. They probably outburst, that emotions. But what happens if you go with the PPE or begin before you begin is that you perhaps can control your emotion and you can stay calm in a meeting, right? So that helps you a lot. Now, I would say that, you be very open here, be very communicative and listen to them than, talking more. Listen more than, talk more. Talk less, listen more. And that helps you to understand them. Understand, give them, a good hearing to figure out what is the reason why they are disgruntled employee. Why are they not happy with me? And listen to them, understand, appreciate them, and also maybe the reasons that sometimes the reason that they're not valued, they feel that they're not valued at work. So figure out the reasons, and then if they are genuine reason, then you can always address them. If the reasons are going beyond your limits, then of course you can involve HR, you can involve your seniors, HR, and then you have mentorship, and then you have coaching. All those things come into place. But in the first place, try and figure out the reason, and then try and address them. As I said, plan, prepare, and execute, and that is one approach that you could do. Be very open communicator with them, address the issues, make them valued, make them feel valued. That's most important thing. All right. It does happen. I mean, it's not that it happens to only few. Maybe sometimes it happens to even the greatest leaders do find these kind of challenges within the organizations.
Correct, sir. You have it.
And I must add you one more thing here. There was a case study. I'm not getting into detail of that case study. I read this in HBR a long time ago. There was a similar situation where employees turned against the their boss and of course the leader. It wasn't an easy situation for the leader. Then what also could happen is it's not that every time the employees are wrong, right? There could be something wrong with the leader also, and by my own approach may not be right, and maybe as I earlier listed out, there could be a lot of those reasons why they are not happy. Now the best thing is sometimes when that, admit that, own that situation, own that a responsibility. You want a responsibility and admit that. What happens when you do that more and they become more forgiving? When they become more forgiving, what happens? You kind of getting into resolving that issue. And then you start gaining the trust. And this was a case study where I have read, vaguely. So they start gaining the trust of those team members again. And then you get into, again, a cordial relationship to continue the work.
Correct, sir. You have explained it beautifully, actually. So there is a recent situation of Better.com, where the CEO had terminated approx 900 employees over a Zoom meeting.
Okay.
Yes. So after that, the whole company or the whole the human resources department or the human workforce became against him.
Okay.
So that was like that only.
Absolutely. I mean, see, the key issue here is, again, ego. I mean, one of the biggest reasons, the challenges that comes is because of the ego. Now, when if both people have ego, then there is a huge challenge, right? As you have heard that, more divorces happen because when both are right, you say, I'm right, she's right. And if one accept that, okay, I'm not right, or let me, compromise a bit, then, you can get into a dialogue. Now, if that doesn't happen, if the ego is important, then the clash continues. And then the worst can happen, like as you said.
Yes, sir. So, at times, you could not yourself agree with some of the policies of the organizations.
Right.
Regardless, you have to follow them and make your team follow the same.
Right.
So how would you go further on that, or how do you do that?
Yeah, there will be situations where you don't agree with certain policies with the company or the management, but then you have to again make sure that your employees follow that. Now, how do you do that? Number one, you need to figure out one, of course, that you need to, as a I mean, for example, now you have a team to manage and you are more responsible than those employees, right? People who are working under you. So, and it is also expected that you know more about the company's culture, company's vision, company's mission, and company's objectives, right? So you work very closely with the top management than those employees. Now you relate very well with the top management than those employees. So obviously you will know a reason clearly as to why those policies are framed in the first place, right? So because maybe you are involved in those meetings and then you are also aware of that. Probably you also contribute, one of the contributors where you have also contributed to make the policies, because most of the times when HR forms policies, it is in consultation with top management and the line managers also involved. So obviously you as a line manager, you would know why these policies are framed. Now at that point of time itself, that if you are not agree, one is that you raise the point. If you raise the point and still company says no, this is how it should be, then you better understand why the company follows that. There are two reasons why you agree and continue, accept it and saying yes, I need to accept it, and then ensure that my team also follows, or you get out of the company. I mean, that happens when I have seen that extremes also, right? But having agreed, having seen, having accepted that yes, this is the reality, and we need to accept there is a reason, logic behind framing these policies, you will be in a much better position to communicate that to your employees when and sometimes you got to wear that different hat. You can't do that saying okay, tell employee, you of course you cannot communicate to employee that hey, I don't believe in these policies, yeah, but my boss says you got to believe. You cannot communicate in that language. You have to accept that is what I mean. If I have to work here, I need to follow the company culture. You agree that, and you need to make some adjustments within you, and then you cascade that down to your team members. And you need to communicate that to team members. Why? Because they may not know the reason, and you know the reason, although you may not personally agree with that. It's not that I should agree with every policy written in the document that okay, I love that, this is how I would have framed it. No, there are certain policies where they say that okay, you have 1 day sick leave in a month, and I personally feel that no, there should be 2 days of sick leave in a month. I may not personally agree that, but then a company has a reason, and there are other statutory laws to be followed. So then you need to understand that, and then when you're talking to your employees, you better communicate that very clearly. But this is the company policy, and this is the reason why this is done, and make sure that they also agree and follow that.
Correct, sir. Very true. There are usually conflicts between these sick leaves and ELs and whatnot.
Plenty, not one, plenty. I mean, when it comes to rewards, plenty. I personally have handled not one, so plenty of such things. But yes, sometimes rules are made to break also. I mean, there are exceptions made with the approvals of seniors. We do bend rules and make approvals, but at the same time you can't do that more often unless there is a valid reason, because otherwise then it becomes a favoritism and nepotism, and that could lead into many other conflicts within the organization, right?
So thank you for these valuable feedbacks, and I like your PP planning.
Plan, prepare, execute. Plan, prepare,
Yes.
execute, or begin before you begin.
Yes, yes, yes.
And that's very important. I mean, that goes for anything, Rahul. PP is something that anything that you want to do, whether for students to study or you want to set some goals in life, that plan, prepare, execute. You want to for even for wedding you can apply that. It's a general life principle, PPE.
There is one PPE kit also which protect us from COVID, and there is
yeah, that PPE is different. Absolutely.
So thank you, sir, for giving your precious time to us.
My pleasure. Yes, two things stand apart: people skills and also how to deal with the ego of people. If somebody is smart in that, many of the conflicts can be resolved within the organization between the members. That's very important.
Yes, sir. So thank you. And
pleasure, Rahul. Thank you for having me here. I hope that I've added some value to those employees who are looking for these kind of tips.